The killing of George Floyd by police has brought a nation already on edge to the tipping point.
He's stopping his breathing right there, bro.
Last week saw massive protests, not just in major American cities, but in small towns and communities in all 50 states and in cities around the world. And while these most recent protests were spurred on by the killing of George Floyd, that is hardly the only issue. Unwarranted violence by police toward people of color, especially black people, happens repeatedly, year after year, month after month. This March, Breonna Taylor, an EMT in Kentucky, was shot and killed in her own home by officers enforcing a no-knock search warrant.
Taylor's family says she was on the front lines fighting the coronavirus at the time of her death.
In May, a video went viral of a woman in Central Park calling the police on a black man.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
All of this against the backdrop of a pandemic that is disproportionately impacting black Americans' health and financial stability. Enough is enough. Here on More in Common, we stand with the protesters and activists demanding justice and equality for black Americans. Black Lives Matter. Period.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
So we just arrived here at a protest on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and it's one of hundreds happening over these last few days. If you've been watching the news this week, you'd be forgiven for thinking these protests have been violent. The vast majority of protests have been nonviolent. So we spoke to some of the protesters here in New York to get their take.
It is up to us to stand in the front lines and protect black people.
We are standing up for Black Lives Matter. We are standing up against police brutality. We are out here for everybody. We are here as people all trying to come together.
Black people aren't criminals. We're just out here trying to fight for our rights. Like, if we have to go to these lengths to get people to listen, like, that's a problem in itself. Black people have been dealing with this problem for years now. Like, we're at the boiling point in this country.
As a pastor, as a faith leader, it's so important to be out here shoulder to shoulder with people struggling.
I mean, enough is enough. Like I keep on saying, I don't know how many times I have to say it. I mean, enough is enough. It's not enough not to be racist. We have to call out the racism when we see it.
We need to put our words into action. We can rally all the time, but we need to make real changes. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
I'm definitely on a mission to change the things that we have going on in society so that nobody don't have an excuse when the cops is killing us. If Cuomo really want to change this, if the mayor really want to change this, you hold the proper people accountable. I'm an essential worker. I work at a men's mental health shelter. So I literally go to work every day. I have not taken one day off of work because why? Why? The city needs me.
Why is it important to be out here today with your family?
I think it's important for my son to see from a very early age that Black Lives Matter and that white people cannot be silent.
What do you want to see changed?
The laws that allow the police to get away with murder.
So as you can see, as the crowds continue to walk through these streets, it's people in the neighborhood offering water bottles. It's people in their nearby apartments waving down to them. It's really a community coming together in a lot of ways.
All power to the people. Whose lives matter? Black lives matter. Whose lives matter? Black lives matter.
The most peaceful moment is always when they take a knee, a peaceful moment of silence for George Floyd.
Whose lives matter? Black lives matter. Whose lives matter? Black lives matter.
There's been no shortage of coverage of these protests in big cities like New York. But it's also happening in small towns and cities across America. And all it takes is one person to start a movement. So, Nicholas, you're from a small town, Illinois, just over 5,000 people. What inspired you to start a one-man protest?
People kind of wait for opportunities to come so they can join and be a part of something. And I was tired of sitting back watching, so I just kind of got off work, went to the Dollar Tree, picked up some supplies. I wanted to make a little sign that said, honk if you acknowledge Black Lives Matter. And I was just going to go out there on the corner and stand by myself and just try to get 100 honks in my community just to raise awareness to the things that are going on in our country. About halfway through, we got to about 50 honks, and then this elderly white lady, she kind of gave us a honk and she pulled over in the parking lot and just walked up to us and she asked, could she hold the sign with us? After that, more people just started coming. There was a kid, I thought it was his first time ever doing it. We had people all shades, all colors, black, white, old, young. So it was definitely nice to see that the community felt how I felt and related to me and still with me.
Look at this, united. Let's go, look at this.
You don't have to wait for a rally or a big protest or something to come your way. You can go out there and you have a voice just like the people that we see on TV every day. So you can go out there and do that stuff yourself. This is the first time I've ever seen just the world, stand even with the Black community in this fight for justice. And it's just humbling and surreal feeling to see that the world actually hears our cries and they do stand with us.
What do you want to really change in terms of what's going on?
The root of racism is just hate. And I was brought up to just treat others how I wanted to be treated. So like we said about George Floyd, I don't want to be murdered like that, so I don't go out there and I don't do that to other people. And I think if people just spread that message, treat others how you want to be treated, that'll solve a lot of problems that we have in this country and even globally.
This protest movement has also grown far beyond our borders, with activists taking the streets in cities all over the world.
I was talking about George Floyd and what happened, and tears just started to come to my eyes.
I can't breathe. Enough is enough.
People are marching in New Zealand, in Berlin, in Italy, and definitely in London and in the UK. There's been protests. It's not one person that told people to go out and protest. Something moved people. That the need for them to speak out at this time are more about their connection with humanity, equality, and putting an end to racism across the board.
No peace. No justice. No peace.
Frustration, anger for many people. How do we channel that now and turn it into actionable things? How do we look at what's happened with your George Floyds, with Breonna Taylor's, and the countless amount of other hashtags we have? The level of consciousness, the momentum, the eyes that are on us now. And so, no, people are not going to stop marching and speaking about it, because if we don't show up in numbers and we don't march and we don't speak, nothing is ever done, and it's always forgotten. The death and the murder of George Floyd shouldn't be in vain. We can't have a change if we don't, address what's holding us back. We can't progress if we don't address what the issues are right now. Let's not forget the Breonna Taylors. Let's not forget the George Floyds. Let's not forget that racism really exists. And let's not forget this moment that we're in right now. But let's change. And so that's where the conversation now has to come with. How do we all change? Not just one or two people, not just the Black community. And we're seeing a rising consciousness and people finally kind of saying, actually, racism does exist. As a human being, Black, white, or whatever, join hands and join together for Black people. Globally, it's time now to change. Let's change the narrative for life.
You've now been watching this show for just over 8 minutes, which is about the same amount of time that Derek Chauvin had his knee on the neck of George Floyd. Something has to change. Across the country, businesses and restaurants have shut their doors and boarded up their windows. But in the heart of Minneapolis, restaurant owner Tommy Beavis of Pimento Kitchen is taking action and giving back directly to protesters and the local community.
We are open and we are here for the community. We're not boarding up. We're here as one community.
I'm Tommy Beavis with Pimento Jamaican Kitchen. Pimento has always been that safe space for the community. As a business owner, I recognize how hard we work to build our empires. And it is hard to see how in the blink of an eye it can be gone, whether it's through protests or whether it's through COVID. At the end of the day, what makes a business is people. It's about people's lives. It's ensuring that we don't have to be say his name, Tommy Beavis, in the future. The businesses can rebuild, but we can never rebuild a life. And there's no way I could choose to put Pimento's property over Pimento's people.
Over the past few days, the Pimento Kitchen staff and a team of volunteers have worked to turn the restaurant into a donation site where individuals can both pick up and drop off essential supplies.
We have the donations coming straight into Pimento. There we go.
Pimento, since May 28th, has basically been reborn. We're calling it Pimento Relief Services. For those who are on the ground, we've been providing them on the front line with essential needs. So first aid kits is important, ensuring that they stay safe out there. We've been providing goggles, we're providing masks, we're providing gloves, we're providing eye washing equipment. So essentially it's about providing them what they need to exercise their First Amendment right in a peaceful manner. When we decided to step out into leadership and put Pimento out there, we knew that we could easily be targeted by those who don't want to see our community coming together. Those who don't like the narrative of a Black-owned business is actually helping to uplift its community and protecting its neighbors.
Pimento staying open, right? Yeah. That's right.
Pimento's resources made it a possible target for looters. But just as Pimento Kitchen stepped up for its community, the community in turn came out to protect the restaurant.
To no surprise, we have been provided information that white supremacists, white separatists wanted to target Pimento. Our first day when we were told about these threats, we had 7 volunteers who stepped up that they were going to protect the space overnight because, of course, with all the supplies that we had in here, it was the perfect target. Thankfully, the community has made sure that the show of force has deterred any potential targeting. We had 250 plus volunteers who showed up to help Pimento. On our block, almost every business has been boarded up, but Pimento refuses to board up because we're not afraid of our community, because we are our community. Remember what this is for. This is for honoring the fallen and protecting the walking. If we can't get it right now, we will be having this conversation again. My hope for Pimento and for Minneapolis, I'm very optimistic. It has started here, and I can tell you that we are going to fix it here in Minneapolis. During times of revolution, there are so many different directions that one may choose to go, but at the end of the day, it is about the end result, which is not just about justice for today, but justice in the future through litigation and through, of course, legislation.
With COVID-19 canceling school and the civil unrest of the past week, it's a scary time to be a kid. So what can parents do to help their children face this challenging time without fear?
I think the key to remember is that it's not just, how to talk to them, but the fact that you are talking to them about race and about racism. The experts were really clear. It's not just about parents. It's about any adult that's in that child's life. So you can imagine in a lot of cases, teachers sometimes spend more time with children during the day than the average parent gets during the day, during normal, non-COVID times.
My responsibility to them is to bring them the truth in its truest form. So my job isn't to make their decisions for them, nor is it to skew the way that they think. I bring them the facts, and then I have a responsibility to help them think through those facts without placing my personal bias on them.
The youth want to be heard, but a lot of times they don't have that voice. I think now it's our job as the adults and as the elders to make sure that we come up with a strategy that they can implement. Because the reality is, we can always hit the streets, we can always riot, we can always fight, but if we don't set up structures that will last past for generations, then we'll have a problem and we'll always have this same rotating cycle of fighting and dying in the streets.
I think the conversation for me is first addressing that what they see is not normal. Because they see so much of it, they start to think, well, hey, I'm desensitized, it doesn't matter if a black person is killed. It's basically just reminding them that these things are normal and then encouraging them to feel. And when I say encouraging them to feel, like I want them to sit in their emotions. I want them to be able to say, well, man, this hurts. I want them to be able to say this is wrong, because that feeling of wrongness is ultimately what's gonna get these students to say, you know what, I need to step up and do something. It doesn't have to be front line, it can be back line, it can be midline. You can do so many things that social media isn't essentially helping students understand.
I make sure to always sort of leave room, which I would advise for most people, leave room for the emotional in these conversations. And so my boys can express that to me.
The media is not showing two sectors of people, the kids who are actively involved in the movement, and they're not showing the older folk who have who have been involved in other movements who are now occupying space again in this particular movement. And I think those two generational gaps together tell a larger story, the story of this has always been happening. This is not my first time on the front lines. And then it tells another story of this is my first time on the front lines, and how those two things look identical. Because the media is making this a right now issue, but this isn't a right now issue. This is the issue that's been taking place forever.
It's about a history of people, and it's a history of prolonged protest. And so being able to put some context around it, I think, will go a long way in helping kids understand it.
Coming up,
the chief of police came. He introduced himself to me. He said he heard I was having a march and he wanted to walk with me. So I'm like, what the heck is going on?
And later,
the killing is just the tip of the iceberg. The everyday abuse that Black and brown citizens face. This has been going on for decades.
The phrase hands up, don't shoot has become a chorus in this country, as so many Black Americans have been killed by police. But there's some members of law enforcement who are doing what they can to stand with protesters. Here's just one of them.
The chief of police came. He introduced himself to me. He said he heard I was having a march and he wanted to walk with me. So I'm like, what the heck is going on?
We got word that there was going to be 2 protests scheduled here in Camden, New Jersey. And we wanted to ensure that there was going to be safety for them and also a peaceful protest. Once I realized that they were going to have this, I wanted to go and to be part of the march. When I got there, I was told who the organizer was. And I walked up to Yolanda and I introduced myself. I said I was the Chief Waisataki, and I asked her if it was okay to partake in the march with her.
I'm going off a feeling that I had in my heart. So I was like, let's do it. I started to chant Black Lives Matter. And I looked over at the chief. I'm like, I don't want him to think I'm racist. So I was like, all lives matter. And he looked at me and he was like, no. And he threw up his fist and he was like, Black Lives Matter.
The tensions were so high. I didn't realize how high they were. But by me doing this, I was just trying to de-escalate the situation, like for people to understand we're with you. What I saw on video, it was horrific. And I really, it puts a knot in your stomach to see something like that. You know, it's like it shouldn't happen in the United States.
Even before the protesting, I have seen the officers walking around the community. They do barbecues and things of that nature. My salon is in like the heart of Camden. So sometimes an officer will pop their head in and just like, everything okay in here?
It's not a policy, it's a culture. Community policing is core, what we do here in Camden. We constantly connect in community in positive ways. And we have to try to meet people in non-emergency situations. So this way they get to see the officer, who they are. We're all human.
Everybody deserves a chance. Nobody's perfect, people make mistakes, but police brutality has to stop. And targeting has to stop amongst Black people. It has to stop.
When we come back, how did we get to this place and where do we go from here?
What we're experiencing now is something that we have in the past. We have not addressed that real problem, and that is police power.
The massive protest movement behind me and around the world was sparked by the death of George Floyd. But that is one small part of a story of discrimination that goes back decades.
What we're experiencing now is something that we have in the past. We have a police shooting of an unarmed Black person, or in this case, the strangulation of an unarmed Black person. And then you see people take to the streets. The killing is just the tip of the iceberg, right? This has been going on and on and on for decades and decades. And there hasn't really been any serious attempt to address the underlying cause of the problem. But the reality is this goes on all the time. And I'm not just talking about the killing, I'm talking about the everyday abuse that citizens, in particular Black and brown citizens, face with police officers. And so when you light a match See, this tinderbox that you have this explosion. We always get to this point because we have not addressed that real problem, and that is police power. You get the journalist citizen, right? Capturing these acts of violence and brutality against citizens and sending them out, and then forcing those in power to take action. I think that's really important, but we cannot see that. I mean, that's just one important component in the struggle against police brutality. We do have to sort of document it. We have to show the world what is taking place. But, that alone is not going to solve the problem, obviously, because there have been footage of, we saw the strangulation of Eric Garner. And so what we're hearing now is this cry from those in power, particularly in the White House and so forth. These are anarchists, these sort of organized criminals and so forth. But, this constantly blaming, those are just excuses by those in power to use to sort of divert the conversation.
If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them. As we speak, I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers.
Trump's clearly more interested in using this moment to rev up his base. And so, he is going to foment more racial animosity and tension, but he really doesn't care about that. What he cares about is getting reelected.
There's the sound of helicopters overhead, huge amount of police officers behind us, and thousands of protesters, but all is peaceful right now. It's been an honor to bring this special edition of More in Common to you today. The fight against racism and for equity and equality is encoded in the DNA of this show. As events continue to unfold in the coming days and weeks, we pledge to continue shining a light on the people and organizations standing up for justice against all odds. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe, and do your part to spread the word that Black lives do matter. I'm Michael Koenigs. Have a good night.